So that's going. As with every week, the recordings will be shared with you. And okay, so without further ado, Steve will present. I'm going to go into the background. If you have questions, post them in the chat. Unless Steve opens up for Q&A. Again, the goal is to be interactive, so definitely be opportunities to interact throughout the class. And so, without further ado, floor is yours, Steve.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, so if I pose questions, I'm going to try to make this somewhat interactive a little bit. So please feel free to interject if you have any specific questions, sort of put them in the chat. We'll get to them as well. All right, so where are we at here today? So last week I talked about, last week was big picture, really, where we talked about creating your business success roadmap, is gave you the big picture of where you need to of the things you need to grow. Well, now we're going to get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty. Today we're going to be focusing on sort of a 7-step plan on creating a marketing. It's a 1-page marketing plan. It's not about putting together this big 30-page plan. But most importantly, it's about marketing is not just about generating leads, but how can you generate leads that lead to profitability of the business? So that's going to be the focus of today. Next week, we're going to be talking about how do you create a business that is really a scalable and a systematized business. And then we'll talk about on how do you build up a team going forward. All right. So let's get started. So why are we all here? We're here because we want to have a quality of life, right? We want to be able to learn things, to be able to improve, and to be able to get better results, right? And to get better results, we need to make better decisions. So what are the things that we need to improve on? There's a question I'll open up. What are the things that we need to improve on to make better decisions? What do you guys think? Somebody share with me.
Knowledge,
Knowledge, okay. But
information.
even what else?
Just having more information to make better decisions if you're informed.
Very good. So how do we get informed? We're on the right track.
Coming to a class like this.
Right. So, but part of it is by asking better questions. If we ask better questions, we make better decisions and get better results. How do we start to ask better questions is by having beliefs and dreams. If I don't believe I'm going to get better or this business is work, or I'm not going to sit down and try to figure out questions on how to be able to get there, right? And the way we build our beliefs and dreams is through our education and having a mentor. And right now, this program is a great way for you guys to be able to get mentors to help you, to be able to educate you, to really build up your beliefs and dreams. But where my focus is in throughout this program is, and especially today, is I want to focus on how you can ask better questions, because once we leave, you're back on your own. So you need to know what questions you need to ask to be able to make better decisions and to be able to make better, get better results and have the quality of life that we all want. So my first question in here is, so let's think about your business. Is your business driving you, or are you driving your business, right? And are you, what does it mean by the businesses? You're in the business, you're doing everything, instead of you stepping back and actually strategically thinking about my business and trying to lead your business. Even if you're a business of one, you still have to play the role of president, CEO, and whatnot, because otherwise we just really have a job, right? And we could own a job and it could be a really good job, but if we want to turn it into a business, we're going to need to step beyond doing the day-to-day stuff. Because most of the time when we just have a job, or what I've seen over the 20 years that I've been coaching small, medium-sized businesses, is most businesses that where the business owner owns a job instead of the business, if you will, is they're just over broke. They're just trying to get in there and make enough money, pay the bills at the end of the month, right? And that should not be our goal. Our goal should be able to create profits in the business that we can create our own wealth, that we can invest back in the business. So let me ask you this question. Why do you think most businesses fail? What do you guys think?
Go ahead, type your answer in the chat, so we'll.
Right? Lack of
Lack of
vision,
vision.
lack of clarity, right? People give up, idle preparation, fail to plan, right? So we fail to plan. We're really planning to fail, right? As the thing goes. But in all these things, and not somebody has it, Yossi, you got it right. It's burnout, right? Is we just, how many people do you know that have given up on running their business and going back to just getting a job because it just got burnt out, right? It's like, oh, I hate dealing with all these people. They just bring in more problems. I hear this all the time. My business was great when it was just by myself, but then when I hired people, there were problems, right? Well, the problems were because you never really built a business. You just had a job and then you brought in people to help you. And there wasn't any clear, some of the things that we had talked about is lack of clarity, no vision of where we're going or what those people need to do. We're going to talk about that in the fourth session, right? So our definition of a business, again, is that commercial profitable enterprise that works without you. And again, the emphasis here is enterprise because the business has to be something that you think of as beyond you. All right. And so we talked a little bit about that last week, but what I want to do right now is let's just do a quick recap of all the 6 steps, and then we're going to dive into our program here today. So the first step that we talked about was it was the mastery step, and it was really, we broke that down into 4 areas. There was destination mastery, having clarity of the goals of where we're growing our business, productivity mastery or time mastery, money mastery, understanding our finances, understanding, what where our break-even point is in the business, having predictable cash flow, being able to process or delivery mastery. And the whole main area here, the main idea here of mastery is simply to eliminate chaos in the business. And then that leads us into the second step. The second step is that marketing and niche step, and that's where we're going to spend pretty much all of our time here today. And this is where you kick up the marketing side of things. We learn how to differentiate ourselves, sell on value and not on price, focusing on getting more customers, more revenue, profits in the business. So we need to figure out what are the things that we need to measure and improve to be able to get those outcomes. The next is the leverage step, right? This is where we work on efficiencies by we creating leverage in our business through developing systems, and we're going to teach you our 9-step process of systematizing a business, no matter what size business you are. And we're going to go into team, and that's where you realize that you don't run the business, your people do, and this is where you start building your great team. And then finally, and we're going to learn about the 6 keys to winning, to creating that winning team. And then the last 2 stages where it's not really part of this program is like the synergy and then the freedom or investment level. The first 4 basic levels that we're talking about here in this program is really looking to turn your business into this massive synergistic growth machine. That's where, what's running without you. You could expand, you can roll into multiple locations if you want, around the city, state, the world. It doesn't make a difference. It's really what you want. This is where you begin to replace yourself in the business, maybe hire a general manager. And then the investment level or the freedom level is where you start creating passive income from the business itself. And the thing that the main point I wanted to talk about this and leave you with this is that this is a process. You can't skip steps, because like I said, up to team, you're working and you're buying back your time. And we're making more money than in the niche and marketing stage, so we could start to afford better systems and to hire a better team so our business can start to work without you. There's no quick fix here. There's no silver bullet that will fix everything. There's no one idea that increases your business by 100%. But if we can implement 100 ideas that increase your business by just 1%, that's synergy. This is where you could like 10x your business and start working smarter and not harder. And those are the things that I want to sort of focus on here today. All right, that's a quick recap of what we've talked about today. Is all about creating your niche and creating predictable cash flow in the business. So I covered a little bit about this and we'll do a quick review of some of the things I talked about in the last workshop when I talked about niche. Because if we remembered, I said that, you know, some people think about sales as marketing as an expense. Why? Because there's more money's going out than's coming back in. But as entrepreneurs, we flip that. We look at it as an investment because more dollars are coming in than is going out. So the key here is, why is it happening more for some people than others? Is because they're testing and measuring the results that they get in their marketing, right? How many people are actually testing and measuring every ad that they go in and how much money that they have and how many leads am I getting and from various different levels, right? Those are the things that are important, because if we don't know that, we don't know how to tweak it or make changes to get better results. And so we talked a little bit about this the last time, was the acquisition cost versus lifetime value, right? So if you invest $3,000 in advertising and you got 10 customers, it costs you $300 for each customer. Is that good? Right? The other thing too, I didn't add in here, but if you spend $3,000 in advertising and you actually got 20 leads, then it costs you $600 per lead, or 150. And then if we got 10 customers, our closing percentage is 50%. So now the question is how do we reduce this? You know, let's say we have a simple business. We're selling cakes and our nice big cakes are $50 each. And each cake costs us, I'm making up numbers off the top of my head, $20, because that's the money it costs for our labor, are the ingredients. And then also you have to include the overhead. You have to include a portion of your salary and all your fixed expenses in every cake, right? So now we're making $30 a cake. But that means you need to spend, you have to sell 100 cakes just to break even from this advertising campaign. So we need to sit down and understand what are the things that we're doing? Where's our best advertising that's bringing in the lowest cost per acquisition cost? Does that make sense? Anybody have questions on that? Right? It's marketing is math. Some people hate this, but you need to understand these numbers. Then the other side of the page is the lifetime value. So if you know that your customer is spending $5,500 a year for 6 years, now that customer is worth $3,300 or $33,000, right? So the point that you need to do is, if you're selling a high-end ticket, this is good. But if you're selling cakes or a smaller ticket item, this is not going to be effective for you. But you don't know unless you measure. You don't know which ad is bringing in the best results unless you measure it. And that's really one of the things that you need to look at. So we also talked about last week, I went through it pretty quickly, was the 5 different drivers of profitability, right? We talked about, because every business knows how many customers they have, what the revenue that they're generating, and the profit. As we talked about last week, all of these are just results. So what are the things that we need to focus on that will deliver those results that we want, right? So what we talked about is customers lead to revenue, revenue leads to profit. So what are the different factors that will drive, if we want more customers? There's 2 things that we need to measure. The number of leads. Every marketing strategy you input is designed to generate more leads, right? Then from the leads that we get, what's the percentage are we converting to customers? So all your sales training you do, any guarantees you do, any added value that you put is your value proposition. Those are all designed to increase your conversion rate. Those are all strategies that will increase those numbers. So, and then one of the sheets that you're going to get is you're going to get a list of a variety of idea generators of various different strategies that will help you in lead generation, conversion rate, and the other ones as well. So that's one of the sheets that you're going to get. It's probably a list of about 600 different strategies. So now we have our number of customers. So how do we generate revenue? Is we have to multiply that by every time our customer spends with us or buy is how much money do they spend? What's what's the average sale? If you're a CPA, it could be your average billable hour, right? Sometimes we have to this formula works with any type of business, right? And then how often are they doing business with us, right? And the last one is our profit margins. Right, so these are, and the question is just put it in the chat. Do you know these numbers in your business? Just put a yes, quick yes or no. Do you know these numbers in your business? Yes or no?
Let's see who's gonna be first to post in the chat.
No, no, no. All right. You know, in the 20 years that I've been doing this, I've only met one prospect that actually knew these numbers, right? Well, why are these important, right? So let's put some numbers to these, right? And we'll go a little bit deeper than we did before. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to break each of these down. We're going to look into each of these separately and sort of see how they need to be part of a whole marketing plan, right? So if let's say we have this small business and over the years we're generating 4,000 leads, we convert 25% of it. This says we have 1,000 customers. And each customer we know comes and buys from us twice and they spend $100 each. So that's $200,000 in revenue, 25%. We have a 25% margin. So we end up with $50,000. I think in the example I used last time, I think I actually just said 4,000 leads, but the average sale was $1,000. The numbers doesn't make a difference, but the formula is the most important thing. My background before I got into coaching was advertising and marketing. And all my clients they would come up to me and say, "Hey, Steve, we need to make more money. I need to generate." So where did I focus? I focused on the top, right? So I'd say, "All right, let's put together a great marketing plan and let's increase our leads by 50%." And everybody's, "Yeah, that sounds great," right? So we go from 4,000 to 6,000 leads, right? But we know our conversion rate's at 25%. So our customers double, right? We'd be happy with doubling their customer base, right? Everybody's there, right? We know our average transactions, our average hour sales, and our revenue goes from 200,000 to 300, profit margins, and now we have 75,000. We have $25,000 more in profit, right? Most people would say that they're happy with that, right? I say you're not happy. You're burnt out because you're dealing with 2,000 more leads. You're dealing with 500 customers. So let me show you what happens when we work smarter, not harder. So let's take a look at this. So what we talked about last week really briefly was let's focus on each of these drivers, not just the one on the top, and see what happens when we just increase each of these a little bit by just 10%. So instead of 6,000 leads, we're going to 4,400. You know, if this is over an annual basis, this is like 1 or 2 leads, a week, right? The conversion rate, maybe we start doing some sales training, maybe we start offering a guarantee, maybe we do better targeted marketing, so we're now converting our customers better, and now we increase that by not 50%, but just 27.5%, right? So our customers, we don't have 1,500, we have 1,200, right? But again, number of transactions, what can we do to increase that? Not doubling it from 2 to 4, but just a 10%. So again, it's just from 2 to 2.2%. And I think everybody here could probably increase their rates by 10%. Majority of your clients won't even notice. So now our revenue is at 292%. It's like, okay, I'm working less, but I'm also making less money. But we're also working on our profit margin strategy. So now instead of $50,000, we're now up to 80,000, right? So let's take a look at this. So when we compare the two of working harder and smarter, when we're working harder, we're dealing with $1,600 less leads, 290 more customers. We're making a little bit more money, but when we're working smarter, we're also making more profit, right? And when I'm working with a client, I usually don't start with lead generation because that's usually the most expensive. But what I might do is look at what is their average hour sale? What can we do to increase the average hour sale? Or working with of the leads that we're currently getting, what can we do to close more of them, right? So if we work on that strategy, you know, we could start, everything will work in. Then we go into average dollar sale. Then we look at what can we do to get them more often, right? There was I don't know if I used this example last week, but one of my clients is is a landscape design nursery company. They have a garden center and whatnot. And when I started working with them about 15 years ago, and the nursery was then, it was right when the economy was crashing. And what they would do is we were trying to build up sales in the nursery. So when people would buy stuff, we had this checkout list right at the counter and said, hey, these are supplies that we found that people tend to forget and had to come back to get. Why don't you look and see if there's anything here that you might need? So these are all the accessories of doing your own gardening job, right? So what we're trying to do is increase the average dollar sale. Then also, what is more profitable, the plants or those accessories? So it's also a profit margin strategy. So we need to sit down and take a look at what are we doing to increase each of these sales, right? So I like to call this the power of 10, right? Because when you do that, it's a 46% increase in revenue, a 61% increase in profits, right? And it doesn't make a difference what your numbers are, but if you increase it by 20 or by 10%, this is what you get. So now you're probably asking this question, is this possible in your business? Yeah, no, I can't do it, right? But let's take a look at what are some strategies and what are the things that you can do to be able to build this up. So as I said in the beginning, the thing that I'm going to be asking you is make sure you have pen and paper, because I'm going to give you questions that you should be asking is when you're looking through each of these 5 drivers. So the first one is, how many leads can you actually handle? You know, I was working with, did a annual strategic plan with a client. We did one last year, and last year he wanted to double his revenue. And what we found out was this year he only increased it by 50%. And the thing that he said, it was, you know, he was happy with that, even though he didn't hit the goal. But he said that, you know what, if we would actually hit that goal, we wouldn't have been able to handle all that business, and it would have caused a lot more problems going on. And so that's why they actually slowed things. So you need to know how many leads you can handle, and what would happen if you got too many, right? What are the systems in place do you have to handle more leads if your marketing starts kicking off, right? How much are you currently spending in lead generation? Are you currently actually measuring the response, or you're just winging it, right? You know, how much is it? We talked about it a little earlier. How much does it cost you to buy a customer or cost a lead? You have a database of non-converted prospects. Because if you had that database, now you could send them a nurture campaign and remind them. Maybe it was just the timing wasn't right. Maybe later you might hit them with the right message at the right time to get them to come back, right? You've already paid for that lead. Does that make sense here? So these are things that we need to sort of ask when it comes to lead generation. And what I found when it comes to marketing, these are the top marketing mistakes that most businesses make. The first one is having no written marketing plan, right? And we're going to talk about a 7-step plan, 7 questions that you need to ask yourself to be able to create a marketing plan. And there's really no sense of the marketing economics. Remember, we talked about marketing as math, is understanding the value of the customer and the cost of advertising. How much does it cost you to generate a lead, right? Having no meaningful differentiation. I'm going to give you an exercise, one of the worksheets that and you'll have a worksheet to work this through on your own, of how to find your differentiation between you and your clients or your competitors, right? Ineffective marketing messages, right? Is how do we communicate our solutions, the solutions to your market's problem, right? It's not, marketing isn't about telling people what we do. It's about telling them how we can help them solve their problems. And then do you have a passive marketing campaign, right? Do you have an actual plan to get referrals into your business? Or do we just wing it and hope our clients just love us so much and do it? Or are we actively asking for referrals, right? There's a variety of different things that we could do in here. So if you want to do marketing right, you have to start with a plan. Let me be clear. Like what we're talking about is not this new big 200-page monster. I'm talking about something that you could really do in one day. And there's a sort of a simple 7-step plan. Because really, when it comes down to it, people buy goods or services for one or two reasons. One, they're looking to solve a problem, or they're looking they're looking for your product or service to make them feel good. So regardless of whether your business, your business provides a physical goods or performs a service, you must really think about in terms of providing solutions to your customers. You know, unless you're this manufacturer of an exclusive distributor of something that's a truly unique product, your customers can get your product or service someplace else, right? You know, so let's go ahead and take a look at each of these steps. So let's talk about the first step in the marketing campaign. The first is you have to understand your market and your competition, right? So you need to understand what segments of your markets are underserved, right? And is there a niche there that is actually big enough to make money? So I was working with this client that was a software developer, and he created this nice product, and it had this nice little niche, and he was trying to get investors to come in so he could build up and expand his product. And really excuse me, what the investor says was the market wasn't big enough to be able to support this product. It was good for this little niche, but he wasn't going to be able to expand it to make anything more from that, right? So he invested all this money in there, thought he had a great idea, but it wasn't big enough to really to make money off of, right? And then how much share this market do you need to even break even, right? So wait, let me go back and take a looking at it. See a question. What defines a lead, right? So I look at it this way. So anybody that's in your target market is a suspect, right? Once you get their contact information, they raise their hand, they're showing somewhat interest, then they become a lead. Does that make sense? Right? And then who falls into that category and what should we record? So you need to be able to record the basic information, obviously, name, phone number, email, whatever you need to do to be able to continue to market to them. Does that make any sense? And so what's the average conversion rate? So whatever your conversion rate is now it is what it is. And I guarantee that if everybody just starts measuring what their conversion rate, you will start to increase it. Why? Because you're focusing on it, you're going to be thinking about it even more. That's a very complicated of how do we know if our market is too small, is that's going to take sort of market research, and that could take a whole workshop to sort of get in there and talk about it. And not good within here. Right. So let's go in. What's some other things? So how much competition do you have? And I think that's part of the thing, is whether there's a good market. Is there somebody serving this? And this could be a niche market under a bigger marketplace too, right? Can I leverage my strengths against my competitors? So do you have a systematic way of looking at it and trying to figure out what your strengths are and what theirs are, right? I'm going to sort of show you a little exercise that you could do it. And then once you understand what's unique, you have to make sure that it's important to the customer itself, right? So let's go into step number 2, which is understanding your customers. So the first one is, you know what your ideal customer looks like, and being as specific as you can. Do they buy in a store through telemarketing? Are they commercial? Are they residential? And you have to create a customer persona so you know what that actual customer looks like. Is it more male or female? Does it, who's the primary buyer? Is it a husband or wife? Is it the owner of the business, or is it a a manager or somebody else could purchase that product. You know, a lot of time I even use Chat GPT and I put in sort of my profile of who I serve and what I try to do. And it came out with a very specific customer persona of going down to the detail, and even sort of gave me some good industries for me to then go in and target myself. You have to excuse me, I'm coming over, getting over a cold here, so my voice might be getting out a little bit. And then the next thing we need to understand is, where do they get the information? Is it on the web, trade magazines? You know, are they all over TV or radio, podcasts? We need to know where they're getting that information. And the last one is, what is their motivation to buy? Is it to make money? Is it to be healthy, to save money? You know, it's sort of that, what is the problem that you're solving? What are they looking at, right? And then let's look at the third step, and then we'll get into some of the exercises that we could do. Is, let's talk about what is niche. See, I look at niche as no price competition, right? That you have the ability to sell on value and not on price, right? And this is where you figure out what makes you different, your unique selling proposition over your competition. There's a lot of times when I look at businesses and I look at their website and I look at their competitor's website, and if I swap logos, most people won't know the difference. They're saying the same thing, right? So when you're looking at and you're thinking about what makes you different, might not be one, two, or three things, but in combination, those three things might make you unique, right? And so those are some of the things that we need to sit down and talk about. So, you know, think about it. What are the three things that make you different from your competition, right? You know, and so I'm going to step back from the marketing end, because marketing is really designed to generate leads, to really to make a sale. So we need to, within this whole process, we need to understand when a sale occurs. And this is like the best definition that I got. Yeah, that someone once gave me. A sale occurs is when there's a compelling need that's met by a credible solution that has perceived value, right? And that's really the thing. So, you know, everybody has needs, but so somebody tell me, you can put it in the chat, or if you want to just open up your microphone, either way. What's the difference between a regular need and a compelling need? Anybody?
Can you repeat the question?
What's the difference between a compelling need and just a regular need?
I can answer that. I mean, a compelling need usually is, something I would think, it's like urgency, like it has to be done now.
Okay. Or another way of looking at that's true, that's a portion of it, but it's just any need that will motivate them to buy, whether it's an urgency or other things that are happening, right? The credible solution, what needs to be credible is your product or service needs to be credible, your company needs to be credible. The salesperson has to be credible, right? So we need to make sure that through the sales process, we're letting them know that we're credible, right? You know, do we have certifications? A variety of different things that we can have, that will, how long we've been in business. No one really cares, but it's just part of that credibility gap right in there. And then coming into perceived value. And we're going to talk about the value coming up in a moment. So when we're looking at differentiation, you know, it's you, your buyer, and your competitor, right? In the middle, that's where there's the parity between you and your competitor. But then there's that little section over to the left is where you provide high value that your competitor does not. And that's what we have to sit down and figure out. So we're going to go through and do a little exercise right here. And I basically, one of the documents you get is going to be a little worksheet that will allow you to do this it has all the instructions.
Yeah, we're gonna send it after the class, so.
All right. Well, let me explain it in how to use it first. So what you need to do is you have to think from the customer's point of view. When they're making a sale, what's the criteria that they are looking at to make a decision of whether they're going to buy your product or service, whether it's from you or your competitor? What are the things that they are looking for? They're usually somewhere between 5 or 10 different criteria based on, depending on your product or service. So we have like 5 criteria here. Then the next step is, again, you have to think about it you have to think like your customer is on a scale of 1 to 10. How well does your business rank in delivering this criteria? Not what you think it ranks, because everybody thinks their business is great and will rate everything as a 10, but from your customer's point of view. And if you're not sure how to get this, you could send a simple survey out to your current customer base and say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do we rank on delivering this criteria? You could even ask them, when buying our product or service, what were the 5 most important things that you considered before making the purchase? Right, those are some easy market research questions that we can go and get. So what basically we'll look at is each of these criterias, and we'll figure out how well we rank in each one of these. But again, the most important thing is from the customer's point of view. Then once you have your product and service ranked, then you go ahead and pick a couple of different competitors and do the same. All right, how well do they rank in each of those areas? And then we're just gonna connect the dots, right? So this is where ours are, and that's where our competitors are. The most important thing that you want to look at is, where is the biggest separation between you and your competitor? So as we look at it as criteria 1 and criteria 5, that's where our customers, or the customers, thinks that we have a competitive edge over our competition. Well, the next thing you have to look at it is how important is that to the customer? So number 1, that could be the number 1 criteria. Boom. All right, that's a great thing to start promoting. The 5th criteria, maybe it's not so important. Or, then we have to look at, or maybe it could be a little bit of importance when you combine them together. Hey, it's a really nice selling proposition. But then you also want to look at areas where they beat you, right? And how do we negate that, or be able to explain why that's not a problem or an issue? Or it could be for that particular client, where in the areas that they beat, you could just really sit down and start asking questions and getting them to realize that that's not that important to them, that these criteria are more important to them. Right? So it helps you design what questions to ask during your sales process. Does that make sense? Right? So what you need to figure out is, this criteria, are these things nice to have, or do they gotta have these things? So you'll have like a little worksheet that you can go ahead and I put the instructions on it too, that you can have it and do this on your own as well. All right. So step number 4 is we have to create the message, right? And so we have to give them some proof that their problem needs to be solved, that it's something that they want to be solved, right? We have to tell them the benefits of your solution, right? And there are advantages that your company has, but it's only a benefit if that advantage is important to the customer. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm saying there? So, okay, you could have this advantage over your competitor, but that's not important to the customer. If that's not part of their compelling need, then it doesn't make a difference, right? So we need to find out that's why it's important to find out what their compelling need is, and let them understand the benefits that you provide them that could help them be able to achieve that benefit, right? And why should they only pick you? Or do you provide different testimonials? Because testimonials are a great way of creating credibility and lower down that fear level of doing business with you, because other people that have similar situations of me have been using this product or service and been getting real results, right? So what is your time sensitive? It doesn't. So I don't think time sensitive is important. It really comes down to what is the need of the client and how you solve their problem. Time doesn't make a difference. You know, some sales have a very long sales um uh, sales menu. Some of them are very short. Does that make sense?
So, Steve,
Yeah.
this is first of all, this is very good information here, and you make it very, very step by step and actionable and measurable. But this is like science over here. Can you put up like two? I don't know if I'm putting you to something you can't do, but can you show us live like an actual advertisement why this one's good, why this one's not good? Like in other words, translating all this information into most people here are going to make themselves a flyer. That's where they're going to send out some emails.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
How can we translate this? Can you show us like a flyer and say this one is right, this one is wrong? Like,
Yeah.
is there
Well, think about it this way. The most important part of an ad is the headline. Most of the time when you put together an ad or put together a flyer, usually what you have on top is the name of your business. And nobody cares what the name of your business is except you and your mother, right? What needs to be the headline? The headline is like the ad for the ad. Think of the headline is something that will intrigue their interest to want them to read the rest of the information. The next part of the ad is, you know, the what are what are the top 7 reasons, boom, this, right? Give them, what are they get, why should they, what's the benefit of getting this product? And then down on the bottom, you could be able to, I don't have anything specifically. Maybe again, the next one I could sort of send you something that you could send somebody out, and I'll give you an example of that.
well,
Uh,
the critical thing is the implementation. In other words, these are very good. Everyone should do market research. They should identify their strengths. They should know, they should have their key, selling points of why people would want you. But then translating all that information into an effective ad. That,
right.
that's
Yeah, I there's one that I'm thinking of that I could do it. What I'll do is I will send you a before and after that you could send everybody to give so they can look at it as examples. Would that work? All right,
yes.
perfect.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. All right. And then do you offer, unconditional guarantees? People are afraid to offer guarantees. And what I want you to think about is, if what's the worst fear that your customer has in doing business with you? And if that fear was actually realized, how would you fix that problem? Most people wouldn't carry, they would just, whatever it costs, they would just fix that problem, make the client happy. If that's the case, turn that into a written guarantee. Because what it will do is will lower the threshold of them wanting to do business with you, right? Um, and you don't be afraid of people that will take advantage of that guarantee, because you will make more money from the guarantee than you will in losing those people that will take advantage of you. But those people will also probably turn into really good loyal customers because you help them out. Well, let me give you another example. When everybody's familiar with FedEx, when FedEx first came into the marketplace, what they found was a hole in the market. There was a niche of businesses that wanted to get products and services out overnight, right? And nobody was doing that in a consistent way. So what they did is they came out with this guarantee of it's overnight or it's free, right? I don't know if anybody remembers that, but my question is what came first, the guarantee or the system and the process to get there? What do you think? Put it in the chat. We got the system, the guarantee, system. What else? Who else has in there? So guarantee, we got a couple of, so it's a 50-50. Everybody that's saying the guarantee is right, right? That was the vision that they had. That was the niche that they were going after. Then they said, okay, how do we create a business that delivers that? So find what your market, where that market niche is, and then how do you create a bit, how does your business solve that problem? Right? They had to create a whole new business and a whole new way of doing things, right? Because remember, people buy when there's a compelling need that met by a credible solution. And then the last part that we need to look at is, or step 5 is where can we find these people, right? Right? How are we going to get our message off to them? And marketing out there right now is so much simpler than it was 20 years ago, when it was basically radio, TV, newspaper, right? Now you could create your own TV ad, have your own podcast, be doing videos all over different social medias to be able to build a brand and stuff, and do it at a very low cost as it was before. What's the best thing about social media is it's easy to test and measure. You can go in and look at the analytics that if you're advertising on Facebook for whatever, of how many clicks that you're getting, what's the cost per click, and all those different metrics that you need to go. So it's really important to understand that. And again, what I'll do is we'll with that other ad, I'm going to make sure I get that ad to you. You can see the difference in it. And then the last step number 6 is we need to sit down and develop smart marketing goals, right? Is let your team in on what those goals are. You know, you have to hold yourself accountable. You have to make a marketing scorecard, right? Is every day have a chart up on the wall. How many leads am I generating every single day? How many appointments have we set up every single day? And if it's in your face and it's in there, and everybody, if it's just you or if you have a team, everybody is working towards that common goal, right? And then the last one is you need to sit down and create a marketing budget, right? We need to understand, you know, how much it costs you to buy a customer. Because if you know that if you spend $3,000, you're going to get 10 customers and it costs you $300, the product or service you're selling is like $10,000, then it's like, how often do you want to spend $3,000 to get 10 customers, right? If you want 50 customers, you know how much money you need to spend. So it's all marketing is math, right? So that's sort of the lead generation. Then we get into conversion rates. So that's the 7th plan. You're gonna have a list that will have those 7 questions or similar 7 questions to answer to put together your marketing campaign. But also when it comes down to those 5 drivers is our conversion rate. Are you measuring your conversion rate? Look at your sales process. You know, do you have a long sales process where you have a lead to initial call to an appointment to a proposal to a sale? You need to know what the conversion rate is along that whole process so you know where the bottlenecks are. But if you don't measure it, you can't improve it, right? You have a sales process. You know where you're taking the journey you're taking your prospect through to get to the end sale, right? And then you have a better conversion over leads coming from one source than another. You know, you might get one lead source might be fewer leads, but you're converting more of those customers. So it's valuable to you. But unless you just looking at the leads, you say, oh, we need to cut that out. But I'm closing 50% there compared to 20% on this other lead source. Again, it's most important to understand those numbers. So, you know, having sales scripts of that really, and I don't like sales scripts that go word for word, but really understand as a sort of a questionnaire or a process that helps you as a salesperson or helps your sales staff understand to know what questions or what are the key points that we need to be getting across to promote our product or service. And then again,
Somebody asked a
uh,
question in the chat, by the way.
all right, yeah. How do you know how much to spend before you start? All right. So it depends. If you're starting with a really where you have no budget, but it comes down to it is really test and measure, right? And it's if you have no budget, you know, it's hard. You're going to have to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to spend, you know, $5 a day on Facebook ads. I'm making something up right now. And, but some people sort of do that and then test and measure what ads work. And then the ones that tend to work a little bit better, all right, next week I'm going to spend $10 on those ads and see it's working. And it's all about testing and measuring and not spending a big ton of money out front. But also it comes down to is, let's let's say your product or service, whatever it is $1,000, and for every $1,000 you sell, you make $500. Well, the question is how often is there a lifetime value? Then you want to make sure that your acquisition cost is less than that $500, right? So you have to and then you sort of say, all right, what's my budget? What can I afford to be able to do it? So it's basically a math problem. And we don't really have much time to get into that in the detail. Hope that helps a little bit, right? But it really starts off by testing and measuring, because the biggest problem that people do is they'll throw money at something and then, oh, it doesn't work, so I'm going to stop. What happens was when they stop is they're losing the momentum that they get, because advertising and marketing takes consistency. So doing something even on a small level and a consistent level will build it. So but if you say, okay, I'm spending X number of dollars in advertising and nothing works, if you're measuring, then you sort of say, hey, what do I change? Do I change the headline? Maybe the headline needs to change. Is it the offer? Do I have to change the offer? Right. So those are a variety of details. So couldn't get into all that information in our short time, and we're somewhat running out of time in here today as well, but hopefully that helps. So let's look at this. We talked about how do we create value? How do we know how much to charge? So I call this is the value line, right? And if our pricing falls within that perceived value, then most likely our clients will buy. So on this graph, on the left side is the match of our compelling need in our solution. Down on the bottom is how much we're selling. So if there's a low solution match, then we can only charge a little bit, right? But if when we sit down and we look at it, and if they have a high compelling need and in our solution is of higher value, we could then charge more money accordingly. So if we're up in that part of the graph, we're actually not charging enough. And if we're down here, we're charging too much, right? So again, sales happens is when that compelling need is met by that credible solution that has perceived value. So if we're charging up over here, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse over here, this is where we're charging, but with the perception of our client is this is what value they're getting, we're most likely not going to be able to close that sale. So we could do one or two things. Poor salespeople will what? Lower their price, get in line, right? Or we could then sit down and increase value. How do we increase value within your product or service? What are things that are available or valuable to your clients that they would want? It could be a product upgrade where it doesn't cost you that much money to upgrade it, but to them it's a big value. So I have what I call is to explain this value. I have what I call is the toothpaste challenge. Hopefully you'll be able to understand what I'm getting at. So, excuse me. So down here we have our generic toothpaste brand, right? Maybe you can go to the dollar store and get it for $1, right? It's pretty cheap, right? I just need toothpaste, brush my teeth. I'm good with that. The next step is we got the brand name, we got Colgate, Crest, whatever it is. And so we're willing to pay, 3 times more. We'll maybe spend $3 for this toothpaste, right? And the next step is because why? We trust the brand. Well, then we have, okay, now there's a specialty toothpaste, right? This is all natural. There's no extra chemicals in it. And we might spend like $5 or $6 on this toothpaste because we're emotionally tied to being eco-friendly or more natural for us. If that's important to us, we'll spend twice the amount. But notice as the value goes up, the amount of the toothpaste actually goes down. And then on the end of it is you have the sort of the image is the whitening toothpaste, right? Here you might spend for the small little thing of toothpaste, you might pay $12. That's 12 times the generic. So why do people, they're toothpaste. Or some people say there's toothpaste. Why would I spend 12 bucks? A $1 thing, a tube of toothpaste is great for me, right? But the question is, it's important to understand this exercise, and that if it was all about the price, everybody would just buy the cheap toothpaste, right? So, why is it more important? What's more important than the price is the why are we buying it, right? If I was on a budget, I'd go with the cheapest. If I was more looking for the trusted brand, I'd go with the brand name because the advertising and all their promotions convince me that that's the best product out there. But if I have a more natural need, I might and want natural ingredients, I might go with the green toothpaste. But if the image was important, I'd go with that advanced whitening one and I'll spend $12. So, but if you're marketing, I'm not going to compare that $12 toothpaste to the cheapest one. That wouldn't make sense. It doesn't, it's in there. So how do we show value for that $12 toothpaste? Is what is that $12 container of toothpaste? What is it is competing against? It's not the cheap brand. It's going to the dentist and spending $1,000 on a whitening, on getting a whitening treatment, right? So it's cheaper to spend $12 than $1,000. Or if you're going to spend $1,000 on that treatment, you're going to want to spend $12 and get this best toothpaste to keep your teeth the whitest and the brightest, if that's important to you, right? And so you need to understand, again, why is it important to the customer? Does that make sense? All right, so let's finish this up pretty quickly and go through transactions, right? What are you doing right now within your marketing to get your customers to come back with you over again? What are some things that people in your industry do? The other thing is, how often could a customer buy from you? I work with a lot of service different people like sell HVAC air conditionings and heaters and whatnot. How many times in the life do you expect to buy a new AC unit? Even if you live in Florida, I only expect to spend it once, right? But so how do they get me to come back often in there? Well, they sell me service agreements. So now I'm coming back more and more often. If I need a repair, they're the people that I go to for the repair, right? And the question is once you understand that, how can you get them to come back with you more often, right? The next one was average hour sale. Every time someone spends money with you, what is that average? Some people might spend $500, some people $10,000, some people $10. I don't know. But the important thing is the average to know, because all we want to do is increase that average, right? So what's the goal? We need to have a goal. So measure what it is right now and say, okay, what strategies do I need to put in place to get from where I am now from that $100 to $110, right? And the other way to increase it is, does your current customer know everything that you have to offer? They could be buying things that you offer from your competitors because they don't know that you could offer that product or service. I've seen that many a times, right? Does your sales team, or which of your products or services have the highest margins, right? So you could sell that to increase your profitability, right? And then simple profit margin questions is, do you know what your gross margins are? You know which ones are the highest? You know which one of your items are the biggest sellers? Another example from the HVAC company is, of all the products and services that you sell, what is the thing that you sell the most of that is that people don't price shop? I was working with this air conditioning company. He thought about it, looked at it, and he said, well, it's Freon. I mean, it's not, they can't sell Freon right now, but 10 years ago it was Freon. And then it was like, well, how much is your Freon? And he goes, I don't know. Well, let's go call your competitors up. Let's just ask people what they charge. And he found out he was like right in the middle of the pack. And I said, well, what would happen if you go from where you are now and be in the middle of the pack between where you are now and the highest? So he goes, I don't know. Let's test and measure. Because when you have your AC pulled apart and they say you need Freon, you're not going to be calling around and finding out. You're just going to pay what it is, right? And so he was able to add enough money throughout the year that actually that year it paid for his coaching program, right? And then going back to the, just sort of mention that, what are non sensitive stuff? What are things that you're doing that you could actually pay people, like instead of paying yourself, let's say if you're worth $200 an hour, but you're doing bookkeeping that you could pay somebody $100 an hour, you're actually paying $200 for that, if that makes sense, right? So those are things that you need to look at, is where can you now focus your energy, where you can now go out and bring in more value to the company itself. And then the last one is, how do you grade your clients A to D? Are you spending all your time and energy on your D clients that suck your time? You know, give those to your biggest competitor and let them suck their time, right? Save yourself time to spend it more with your A and B customers. And how do I get my C's to become B's and my B's to become A customers? Those are the more valuable customers to you. So I went through this last part pretty quick to sort of finish up, but I want to finish up with this last slide and taking these 5 ways and see what would happen if every year I increase it by just 10%. Over 5 years, we go from $80,000 in profit to over $500,000 in profit. So it's the biggest thing is you need to sit down and ask yourself, what strategies are you implementing in your business to increase my leads by 10%, my conversion rate by 10%, my client, and it doesn't have to be big increases. It just 10% every year, and where you are now. And some things you might find that, hey, I can increase my leads by 20%. I could do my average sale by 20%. But if you look at the average of being 10 across, it will have an extremely big impact on your business. Does that make sense? So we're just going to leave with
a technical question. If someone's in a service business, how do they define margins? It's their
okay,
time
whatever.
they're measuring.
No, it's like this their expense. What so the all right, let's say you spend well, like I have a service-based business, right? So I spend X number for all my coaching, and then what are all my expenses that I might not have a cost of goods sold, but I still have fixed expenses that I have to pay. I have to pay my phone bills. I have to pay for my internet. I have all my other services that for my CRM program, for all my marketing and advertising, right? So those are all profit. Those are all margins. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So we sit down and we look at this, and from the marketing plan is 1, understand your market and your competition. 2, understand your customers, find your niche, develop your marketing message, determine your medium, set your goals, and establish your marketing budget. We could probably do a workshop on each one of these separately and whatnot. But the hopefully I've given you my goal here today was to get you to think and to say, what questions do I need to ask myself to increase each of those 5 drivers? Because the whole marketing campaign is tied into that marketing leverage of those 5 drivers that we're talking about, that you see on the screen. So I'm going to leave you with these 2 quotes. First, from Warren Buffett. Now he's the 5th wealthiest man with $119 billion in net worth. Actually, I pulled up this slide from an old presentation that I had done 10 years ago. Back then, he was the 2nd wealthiest man, and he was at $49 billion. But what he says is important. It's not necessary to do extraordinary things to get extraordinary results. You don't need to double your leads or double your conversion rate. Just go for little increases over time will add up to big results. And then the last 2 quotes from Jim Rohn, one of my success gurus that I love reading his books, is never wish your life was easier, wish you were better. And you have to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. All right, so let's end up, if you have any questions, but first, while you're in here and thinking of questions or whatever, what were the top 3 learnings that you got out of today? Let's put that into the chat. Anybody has any questions? You can come off mic if you want and or put them into the chat. I'd love to see what were your top couple of takeaways from today as well.
So I want to just say, oh,
Go ahead.
no, I was going to say I'm just, from running CHY all these years, this is what I call a packed class. If you hold on to this, the recordings of this and the worksheets I send you that we're going to send, smart marketing person, if you want to do a smart campaign, you have to cover all these things. If you sit and you dedicate the time to answer all the questions and then you make a marketing campaign, you'll learn a lot. No, there's a lot of people, they make an ad, they throw it out, they don't really know if it's successful, it's not successful. You really covered in here the elements of how to make a smart marketing campaign and how to measure it and to put it into numbers that you could actually track and use to grow the business. So it was we had a limited hour and it was very condensed, and maybe it was a lot more technical than maybe people would have wanted it to be, but this is really very, very fundamental things, and I can't emphasize enough. There's a lot of messages now. Go ahead. If you want to read those. Yeah.
Yep, it's in there. I mean, actually, too, is I will send you the example of 2 ads so you can see the difference of. It'll be like an example of an old print ad, but it could be converted anything into of social media ads or any type of ad that you're trying to, even if you're doing a video, you still want to follow the same type of focus in there. Small increases, trickles. Yep. It's like the difference. You don't want to go for try to hit a home run every time you want to do. It's like singles and doubles, steal bases. Love using sports analogies in my stuff. So, but also too, if anybody has any questions for me, feel free to email me between each session. There's Steve Warrenson.
I want to, Steve. Yeah, right. Someone here, Shmuley Munich, says he likes to use HubSpot. I've heard of it before. Shmuley, go on, Mike. Tell everyone what HubSpot is and how you use it. I've heard about it before. Just explain that to people.
Sure. So HubSpot is a CRM software. It's to help you keep track of all the people that you deal with in business. For example, if I want to keep track of all the leads that I'm getting or all the people that I'm reaching out to, when did I meet with them last? When did I get in contact with them? I could also keep track of the deals. So let's say I spoke to someone and they're interested in using my service for moving on to the next step. I can create all those steps till when the sale's closed, and I could put all the people in and see where they're holding each sale.
Do you also use it as for your email marketing?
Yeah, I don't do any, I haven't started any kind of newsletter yet, but we did just do an email to all our clients and I used it in HubSpot. I could design it. I can keep track of who opened it, that kind of information.
Right.
And what is the cost?
Right now I'm on the free plan and there's a ton of stuff you could do on the free plan. If you wanted more, I think it's, I forgot, they have some kind of package that it starts at $20 a month. You get a few of their different components on a monthly basis. But if you wanted to use the whole thing, I think you have to start adding in a lot of components. It gets a little more expensive.
Right. You can actually use it to create what your website. I mean, Action Coach as a whole franchise. We're actually migrating everything over to HubSpot to be our central thing. Also, my CRM that I use it's similar, but it's different. It's called Entreport. And what I like about it is it allows me to put in my marketing automation. So if I'm, and I could do landing pages off of it. So if I do a landing page and get people to download a free ebook or something like that, then it goes right into, the contacts go right into my CRM. And then I could set up an automation email blast that will come in there and with the goal of, hey, let's schedule a one-on-one meeting with it. So, and all of that is relatively free, but it's all driven by my social media and my email marketing campaign.
Nice. Thank you for sharing.
Any other questions? Okay, Honeybook, that's another one. Yeah, there's a zillion different CRMs out there. You just have to find, some of them are easier than others to use, but for on the basic level, there's a lot of real basics.
I'm in the middle of, who's calling?
Place to have your, to
Yeah,
collect
I'm
your
gonna,
data.
call me in 5 minutes, please. Okay, I'm in a meeting right now.
Any other questions or comments? Anything to share with?
So I have
other
another one. I kind of asked before, but I'll try and explain a little better. Like when I'm in.
I just want to say, no one has to stay on at this, everything is voluntary now, so if people need to go. Don't feel like you have to stay on. Okay, go ahead, Shmuley.
So for example, when I'm trying to calculate what's a lead and what's not a lead, what I should be keeping track of in HubSpot, I have to do a lot of it manually. So every time, I don't know, let's say I put out a piece of content on LinkedIn, I have a bunch of people that like it, and I reach out to those people, try and start a conversation with them. Some of it goes somewhere, some of it doesn't. Like, should I be keeping track of everybody who liked that post and put their names in HubSpot so I could see kind of what impact I'm having and keep track of those numbers? Or is that just going to be too overwhelming? Like, should I really put in the time and effort to keep track of every single possible lead?
Right. I mean, that's sort of I guess you have to sit there and you have to qualify this and sort of go in there and who from LinkedIn are your target market? If they hit your target market, then maybe you want to capture that information. Like a tool that I use is, because I do a lot of LinkedIn stuff, is called Connected with a KENNECT. There's a bunch of other companies that do similar stuff. But what it does for me is automate my outreach to I will go into LinkedIn and create a search of this is my target market. It will, and then where you could just do that normally on LinkedIn, right? I create that, I get that link from LinkedIn with that search, I put it into the system, and then it will send out an automated request for a connection on LinkedIn. And what's also nice about it is after they connect, I then have it through Zapier. I use it, puts it into my CRM program. So I have that contact information grab. And then within that system, it will then send up follow-up emails through LinkedIn. With my goal is I want to try to get them to get a phone call with them. Right. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to provide them with value, different business tips, free stuff, and say, hey, let's get together and let's talk, see how we could help each other grow each other's business. So, what type of industry are you in?
I have an accounting firm, so we do tax
Okay.
advisory for entrepreneurs and a lot of CFO work as well.
Right. So, so that's a perfect thing. So you can go ahead and create, there's a lot of content that you can go to give business owners but create that persona of who you want to target, and then start that conversation with them. But the whole question is once you create that content, maybe through HubSpot, you can now create a nurture campaign of all those people where you're sending them a monthly email with a business tip from how to lower expenses, how to whatever is important to your clientele. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Right. Who else is out there? Anybody else? Any other questions? All right, cool. I guess we're good. All right, everybody, we'll see you next week. And so reach out with me if you have any questions. Feel free to email me, and we'll talk to you guys. See you guys all next week. Have a great day.
Yes, great session. Thank you very much, Steve. Everyone take care. We'll send out a follow-up email with the recording and the attachments. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next Wednesday.